Welcome to Basketball Cinema, where we revisit the most important and iconic games in NBA history. My name's Jay, and today we're looking at Game 2 of the 1993 NBA Finals between the Phoenix Suns and Chicago Bulls. This is part 2 of our massive 10-part series here on the channel, looking at epic performances and playoff losses. Good news for many NBA legends from the 1990s, as basically everybody not named Michael Jordan could qualify to be featured in this series. But that's because MJ was always winning. Indeed, today we do look at one of Michael Jordan's many NBA Finals victims, and one of the most unique characters we've ever seen and still see in the NBA, Charles Barkley. Chuckster spent 8 seasons with the Philadelphia 76ers to begin his career, rising to prominence in the league thanks to his high-efficiency scoring and surprisingly elite rebounding. I say surprisingly because my guy Charles was listed at 6'6". And actually admitted to being closer to 6'4" in real life. Unfortunately for Barkley, regular season dominance, including 7 straight All-NBA nods, didn't translate in the playoffs while in Philly, as he never advanced past the East Final. Prior to the 1992-93 season, Barkley was traded to the Phoenix Suns. Despite the Suns having made the playoffs in 4 straight seasons, Chuck didn't seem all that jazzed about the move, saying, quote, "I just don't know how I feel, and I don't know if I'm happy or sad. Whatever happens, I'll deal with it." Man, if that isn't the most relatable thing I've ever heard from an NBA player. The round mound would acclimate quickly to the desert. He'd lead Phoenix to a league-best 62-20 record. Playoff series wins against the Lakers, Spurs, and Sonics, finally landing in his first and only NBA Finals appearance against the Chicago Bulls. Oh, and Chuck also won MVP in 1993, which made everybody pretty happy.
I was a little bit upset that I didn't get the MVP that year and they gave it to Charles Barkley. But with that said, okay, fine, you can have that. I'm gonna get this.
Oh, yeah, well, except MJ. As mentioned, the Chicago Bulls were waiting for the Suns in the 1993 NBA Finals. MJ and company had beat the Blazers in the 92 Finals and the Lakers in the 91, and were aiming for the first NBA three-peat since the 1960s Boston Celtics, who I made a video on last week. Go watch it. Chicago finished the 93 regular season with a modest 57-25 record, but cruised past the Hawks, Cavs, and Knicks in the East playoffs, with MJ averaging well over 32 points a game. The Bulls would wrestle away home court advantage with an 8-point Game 1 victory in Phoenix, a game Charles Barkley still regrets.
But I've always felt bad that I did not have my team ready to play in Game 1. And I take full responsibility for that.
But the Chuck Wagon didn't need to apologize for his play in Game 2 of the 1993 NBA Finals. Not at all. Here, I'll show you. The game began with Charles Barkley getting involved right away, as the MVP would purely stroke his first hoop of the game. Jordan and Pippen combined to force a steal, and in transition, the dynamic duo would combine to set up a clean mid-range look for MJ. If anyone ever talks about Michael Jordan like he wasn't also a phenomenal passer, well, they're wrong. Gorgeous alley-oop feed to Pippen. Suns rookie Richard Dumas with an impact play early, ripping Pippen on the defensive end before finishing with a free dunk in transition. Michael was on point in the first, running the baseline, finding a cushion to rise up with that trademark sexy jumper. Not to be outdone, some great passing from the Suns, setting up a patient Barkley for the finish and the foul. We last saw Charles Barkley here on Basketball Cinema as a member of the Houston Rockets during our failed NBA Super Team series. As mentioned a bit earlier, Barkley had carved out a spot among the all-time NBA greats already by this time in 1993, as he was sporting career averages of 24 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 assists per game. The 1992-93 season would be Barkley's peak though, as with a line of 26, 12, and 5 per game, he was controversially named MVP over Michael Jordan. I say controversial because MJ took it personally and all that, but in reality, the decision did make sense. The Suns did have the best regular season record and were vaulted to that status after acquiring Barkley. Though it's a regular season award, Chuck validated his MVP status in the playoffs by outdueling prime David Robinson, taking down young Shawn Kemp and Gary Payton, before giving MJ a real run for his money in the finals. There's no need to be salty about it, Michael. Kevin Johnson was a 3-time All-Star and 5-time All-NBAer in his career. He sliced to the rim off the bounce beautifully for 2. Scottie Pippen guiding the offense for the Bulls, pulling up for 2 from the mid-range in semi-transition. I gotta be honest, this play right here, it blew me away.
Pippen has Grant in the open floor. Yes, and it counts.
Yo, what was that reaction, Marv Albert? That was sick. Scottie had switched onto Barkley defensively, but Chuck didn't care. He simply faced up and pulled up right in the face of his future teammate. The Suns were going all out defensively to contain Michael, bringing a hard double in the half court. He patiently found Pippen underneath, who'd eventually score. With the game tied, Michael found himself free on the perimeter. He took a dribble and nailed a three. I'm honestly embarrassed to admit this, but this is only the second time we're seeing Michael Jordan in action here on Basketball Cinema. I mean, clearly I have no idea what I'm doing here. One of the explanations I have for a lack of MJ content is that thanks to his gargantuan profile and impact on the game of basketball, I feel like there's zero stories or stats I can bring forward that y'all haven't already heard. But I guess I'll give it a shot. The 92-93 season was Michael Jordan's 9th in the NBA, and in that time, he'd won 7 NBA scoring titles, 2 NBA championships, averaged 32 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, made 8 All-NBA teams, won 3 MVPs, 2 Finals MVPs, a Defensive Player of the Year award. Okay, I gotta stop. It's just too much. He had a legitimate GOAT resume after just 9 seasons. Narrowing the focus a bit, the performance by MJ in this game too would be part of a 4-game stretch in the finals in which he'd average 45.5 points a game. Nobody has ever been that purely dominant to top the NBA.
Michael Jordan was the alpha. Period.
Chuck was a physical presence, tough to move and also adept at drawing contact. He'd hit 1 of 2 freebies as Michael took his first rest of the game. After Barkley's miss though, he actually recovered the board and set up Tom Chambers for the deuce. Watch Prime Charles at work, tearing down a defensive rebound before maneuvering all the way up court with adept ball handling skills. Unfortunately, Kevin Johnson couldn't catch the pass. KJ made up for it, however, bouncing into a mid-range jumper from the isolation. Kevin Johnson would actually become the mayor of Sacramento in 2008. He stayed in that position through 2016. Cool. Veteran Danny Ainge had checked into the game, a smooth attack in transition, drawing the foul and putting it home. 12 first quarter points for Barkley as the Suns led 29-28. Into the second, the Suns continued to keep all their eyes on MJ, but a spiffy find on the drive off to Horace Grant, who was fouled. It's honestly crazy how unflustered Michael was at the continual trapping that he was facing. This time with his signature fade from the post away from the double, it was money. Watch Charles Barkley operating from the post.
Barkley stepping around Grant.
I mean, wow. It wasn't quite the dream shake, but he was low-key unguardable from the low block. The Bulls had all 5 players in the same quadrant of the court on this possession because F spacing, I suppose, and Michael shook free for another smooth midi. Another seemingly insane play from Horace Grant right here, taking a feed from BJ Armstrong, narrowly avoiding decapitation by Charles Barkley, another massive dunk. A shining star for the Bulls in this game too, in addition to the greatness of Mike and Scottie Pippen, was Horace Grant. Grant was in his 6th season with the Bulls and had worked his way quickly into being one of the NBA's most reliable and consistent starters, averaging 13 points, 9 rebounds per game during the Bulls' three-peat stretch.
I thought the team with Horace Grant was better than the team that won 3 peats later. Michael, obviously, he's the greatest ever. I think we all agree on that. But I thought that Horace Grant was a better player than Dennis Rodman all around.
Horace would become an all-star in 1994, was 4-time all-defensive, and won a 4th ring in 2001 with the Lakers. Pretty underrated if you ask me. Great job done by Michael here as he backed out from the double further away from the rim, allowing a clear lane to develop for the pass and drive to the rim by Scott Williams. Pippen wrecking more havoc defensively for the Bulls, disrupting a pass that would eventually lead to a 4-on-0 dunk for Jordan. 6-point lead for the Bulls into a timeout. For all his unique skill, Barkley was also just a huge, massive load to handle inside, as he tore down an O board and finished with the standing dunk. You know, I hate to sound like an old man, but kids, pay close attention to this play by Michael Jordan.
Bob Rashad had a storm. Bob Costas will be along at halftime. Here's Jordan. Oh, what a pass for Horace Grant.
Found the outlet after being doubled, and immediately darted away from his defenders off the ball, perfect give and go, then the unselfish feed to Horace Grant. You know, back in my day, never mind, I'm not an old man, but those were some pretty gnarly fundamentals. Down 10, Charles Barkley with another picturesque post move on Scottie Pippen, this time throwing up a right-handed hook shot after a quick shimmy. I highlighted his fundamentals, but here's MJ's downright silly athletic ability. Mishandling the alley-oop feed at the rim, but in a flash he was back up off the floor to convert. Another sneaky big play made by Danny Ainge, who took a Barkley feed and nailed a 3. This time Chuck calling his own number, an unstoppable spin from the post to create space and score. Chicago simply had no answer for Sir Charles.
He was trying for a 2-for-1. Get one up, see if it goes in. No, we'll get the last one back.
And Barkley drew the foul.
Just a whole beast out there. Barkley with 25, MJ with 19 as the Bulls led by 6 at the half. It really hadn't ever hit me until I started putting this video together, but Charles Barkley and Michael Jordan's respective careers have had a number of crossing points. Beginning right from day one, in fact, as both were members of that historic 1984 NBA draft. As we know, the Rockets picked Hakeem Olajuwon first overall, which remains an understandable decision, before the Blazers made the greatest draft blunder in history, taking Sam Bowie at number 2 ahead of Michael Jordan. Mike would get picked at number 3 by the Bulls, and Charles Barkley fell to Philly at the 5 spot. During the Bulls' first championship run in 1991, they matched with Barkley's Sixers in the second round, dispatching them with ease in 5 games. In the summer of 1992, Barkley and Jordan, along with Scottie Pippen, were all members of the historic US Dream Team at the Olympics in Barcelona. On the most stacked team ever constructed, it would in fact be Barkley who led the team in scoring, 18 points a game on over 70% from the field. It's easy to forget, but Charles Barkley was special in his prime. Tom Chambers getting the Suns on the board to begin the second half, nearly traveling, but instead getting the hoop and the harm. Chambers with another boost off the bench, nifty flip shot on the drive for 2. This was actually a 15-3 run for the Suns, but that was stopped on a gorgeous spin and feed from Pippen to Scott Williams. More nice work from Horace Grant, this time on the glass, which led to...
Here's Jordan for 3. Yes!
Chuck with an answer, up to 27 points on the game after grabbing an O board and putting it back. MJ was facilitating so smoothly in this game. Working on Dan Marley, he spun and dropped to Horace Grant for the jumper. Marley was struggling offensively. He hit his first field goal of the game, a deep connection. Suns trailed by just 3 points now. This was in fact the best sequence of Game 2 for the man they called Thunder Dan.
There might be a lot of people in foul trouble before this game ends.
Jordan lost it. Marley with the steal. Jordan in pursuit. Marley.
I brought up the iconic saltiness of Michael Jordan a bit earlier when discussing the Charles Barkley MVP nod, but with regards to this Phoenix Suns team, here's another MJ classic from The Last Dance.
I knew that Jerry Krause loved Dan Marley. And just because Krause liked him was enough for me. You think he's a great defensive player? Okay, fine. I'm gonna show you that he's not.
Marley had been named All-Defensive 2 times, including here in 1993. He also confirmed that indeed Krause loved him as a player, sharing a story that the Bulls GM actually wanted Dan to tank a pre-draft showcase in front of scouts so that he would potentially slip to Chicago near the end of the draft. I tend to think Mike was playing up some of those motivation stories during the documentary, but either way, I don't think poor Dan Marley ever stood a chance. Pivotal sequence here from Bulls point guard BJ Armstrong. He pulled up on a 3-on-1 break and kissed one home off the window. Next possession in transition, he spotted up in the corner and hit what would be ruled a deep 2, 7-point lead for Chicago. Mayor Kevin Johnson was really struggling, having his shot rejected by Horace Grant. MJ would eventually snare a defensive rebound. He then put an on-point look-ahead feed to Pippen for the and-1 finish. 8-0 run for the Bulls with more defense. As the ball was forced out of Barkley's hands due to an incoming triple team, the Suns would turn it over. Grant with another basket after working the glass, double-digit lead re-established for the Bulls. Oh my gosh, imagine watching Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley in the NBA Finals, then seeing a trailer for freaking Jurassic Park in the commercial break? I am unbelievably jealous of 1993 right now. Anyways, like a young Dr. Ian Malcolm, Charles Barkley was too much to handle in this game. Life, finds a way, and so does Chuck. Well, finds a way to score at least. Hold on to your butts. On the very next possession down, the Suns just force-feeding Barkley. Such deep position on the block, second straight and 1 finish. He was up to 33 points. Point Jordan at it again, finding a wide open Horace Grant for yet another finish. Dan Marley a contested 3 from the wing. The Suns were within 7 points. Flash forward a few possessions.
Picking their defense apart. The steal by Marley. Johnson with Barkley. Barkley puts Phoenix within 1.
A little tough to hear over the roar of the Phoenix crowd, but it was a 1-point game. Big defensive play by Dan Marley too. Jerry Krause loving it. Anytime the Suns grab momentum though, anytime, Michael Jordan would make a play. Tough slashing finish on the drive. Hey kids, are you watching? More unreal fundamental play from MJ. Again moving off ball for the give and go layup. Okay, so here we are in the fourth quarter of Game 2. Bulls with a 3-point lead. Just a few minutes prior, though, this had happened.
Barkley works off a double team. Barkley, oh, look out! He landed hard.
A seemingly brutal fall for Chuck, and it literally was. Barkley would hurt his elbow to a point he'd have to get fluid drained from it before each game during the remainder of the series? It didn't keep Chuck down, but hard to believe it wouldn't have some effect on his play. Dan Marley continued his strong play as he knocked down his third triple of the game, tying things up. Horace Grant was just amazing in Game 2. Watch this shimmy fade over Barkley, much to Chuck's chagrin. Slick feed from Danny Ainge to Barkley for 2 underneath. Banged up or not, Charles Barkley was a man on a mission, barreling to the rack and converting. First lead for the Suns in an eternity. Scottie Pippen quietly had a triple-double in this game, and with MJ on the bench, Pip dropped one of his 12 dimes of the game off to John Paxson on the wing. Jordan still on the bench.
For three. John Paxson, a notorious street shooter.
And it didn't even matter. Big shots by John Paxson. Bulls had maintained a 1-point lead with their star on the bench, arrested MJ up to 32 points on a clinical drive and lefty finish. Barkley drawing a very modern-day pump fake foul, he'd make 1 of 2 from the line. Pippen another assist out of the structured Bulls offense, as MJ popped wide open for the jumper. Just over 4 minutes remaining now. A 4-point lead for Chicago. They were able to out-rebound Barkley on the defensive end before BJ Armstrong patiently found Mike on the break for the and one. In the clutch, some great passing from the Suns, moving it to Barkley, who once again took a hit. He was slow to pick himself up after that one, but did convert a pair from the line, giving Chuck 42 points on the game. Suns down by 4 with 2.5 remaining.
Jordan to the fadeaway. Michael Jordan with another big shot.
Bro, every time the Suns had momentum, Mike just ruined it. Dan Marley was way off on a jumper of his own, and that wasted possession, well, it was a killer on the other end because...
Following the series of fakes, Michael Jordan makes it 40 points.
Sheesh, man. Dan Marley, I mean, my guy, he tried so very hard. Big time 3 from Danny Ainge, who was fantastic in this game, cut the Bulls' lead to 5. And after Michael finally missed, it was Ainge again, this time on the drive, now a 3-point game. Scottie Pippen a chance to play hero with a dagger look, but he was off on a clean mid-range attempt. Danny Ainge trying to be the savior for the Phoenix Suns in this game, but his magic finally wore off as an attempted game-tying 3 was blocked by Pippen. I guess Scottie kinda was the hero for the Bulls after all. But in reality, though it was a terrific defensive play by the Pipmeister, there's no debate on who ran these streets, man. For as dominant as Charles Barkley, the MVP, was in this game, for as close as the Suns kept the game throughout, there was simply a sense of impending doom vibrating beneath the surface during the entire game. As like the shark in Jaws, Michael Jordan continually showed up in the most important moments to unleash destruction. Wow, 2 Spielberg references in one video. What a legend. Jordan would connect on a few insurance free throws to solidify the victory for the Bulls, and to pad his own stats just a bit, and that was it. It would eventually be a hard-fought 3-point win for Chicago, taking both games on the road to start the finals. Bill Simmons would later write in summary of this legendary Game 2 duel in the 1993 NBA Finals, quote, Charles played as well as he possibly could, a 42 and 13 on 16 of 26 shooting, but Jordan exceeded him by tallying a 42, 12 and 9 and destroying Dan Marley down the stretch. You could see it written on Barkley's face as he walked off the court. I can't beat this guy. And he couldn't. The harsh truth many Jordan foes faced in the 90s, even when putting up truly epic performances like Charles Barkley did here. The aftermath of the 1993 NBA Finals cannot be understated in terms of just how different the league would look a short time thereafter. This was entirely thanks to the one and only Michael Jordan deciding to retire from the sport just a few short months later. As any Hoops fan would know, there's countless conspiracy theories regarding MJ's first retirement, but the non-conspiracy reason is that Mike was wildly distraught over the tragic murder of his father and lost the desire to play ball. Although I'm referring specifically to basketball, as in February February of 1994, Jordan would sign a minor league baseball deal with the Chicago White Sox organization. The Bulls would make the East Final without MJ in 94, but struggled during the 94-95 season, with Mike eventually returning to the team just ahead of the 1995 playoffs. Meanwhile, our guy Charles Barkley never got closer to fulfilling his destiny with an NBA title than he did in 1993.
I mean, I think people don't understand. Sometimes they talk about how much money guys make and what commercials they do and whatever. But at times like this, I think it's really bad to be an athlete. I mean, I don't think people realize that you are human. You do have feelings. You want to say it was a great year, but you feel so bad right now. Just disappointed, hurt, and
Okay, nah, I gotta stop that, man. Retrospect of Charles Barkley is enough to make a grown man cry. Over the next 3 seasons in Phoenix, Barkley's production would remain elite. However, the team would fail to advance past the second round again. At age 33, Chuck was dealt to the Houston Rockets, where he found himself in prime position for one more good shot at a ring, and I actually made an entire video about that, so go watch that one too. For each game covered here on Basketball Cinema, I'll be giving out 3 awards, beginning with the Clint Hawkeye Barton Award for Most Underrated Performer.
I don't care.
Which goes to Scott Williams. Scott Williams is one of those classic names from the Bulls dynasty, which I've definitely heard before, but know basically nothing about. He scored 9 points and blocked 3 shots in 36 key minutes off the bench in Game 2. After MJ dropped 55 points in Game 4, Williams joked about being proud that the 2 former UNC Tar Heels, himself and MJ, combined for 57 points in the game. Wholesome, self-deprecating humor. You love to see it. The Rick Dalton Award for Most Recognizable Moment goes to this list of the highest scoring players in NBA playoff history. Now obviously 1993 was a long time ago, but I still thought it was crazy to see the difference between that one and the current list. Wilt has been bumped all the way down to number 19, he and Elgin Baylor both barely hanging on to the top 20. I was surprised to see John Havlicek so high on the list, but he's still up there at number 13. Crazy. And finally, the Mark Jackson,
with all due respect,
Award for Weirdest Moment in this game goes to Chris Webber playing video games in 1993. The broadcast would go on to interview both Chris Webber from his home in Michigan, as well as Sean Bradley in person as a preview for the upcoming NBA draft. But look at C-Web, probably jamming out on a Sega Genesis instead of watching the game. He was also doing so with knowledge there was a camera on him. Huh, was Chris Webber the first ever gaming YouTuber? Give that guy an Elgato. And that's it. The Chicago Bulls beat the Phoenix Suns 111-108 on June 11th, 1993. Despite Barkley's heroics, MJ and the Bulls would complete their first three-peat just 9 days later. If you enjoyed this episode of the show, please consider dropping a like down below, and if you can see yourself watching more of these in the future, subscribe. Like, you already knew that, but I'm telling you again, subscribe, leave me a comment, all that good stuff. Next week is part 3 in our epic performances and playoff losses series, in a true David vs. Goliath matchup from the early 2000s. But until that one, my name's Jay, and this has been Basketball Cinema. Woo! I cannot believe this is only the second video I've made including Michael Jordan. How is that possible? And this one was supposed to be about Charles Barkley, like he was the focus, but MJ stealing the limelight, it's kind of what MJ does, right? Scottie Pippen would be mad. Oh my word, MJ was so dominant though, and it was just like a clinical assassination of the Suns, even with Barkley playing so well. I was really excited for this video, and I'm excited for next week, so make sure you watch it when it comes out. Like, subscribe, you guys know.